video here is to show you a kind of interesting army with Carthage that can be replicated to an extent by some of the other factions, but it is a very heavily rushed based army, and surprisingly it turns out to be extremely effective so far from what I've used of it. There's definitely a lot more dangerous builds out there, and this is a very situational build. You know, depending on the opponent you're fighting, it might be kind of difficult to pull off with a pike faction as your enemy, but aside from that, it is something that's very viable and a lot of fun to use. So here we are now on the battle map, and you guys can see it's almost completely flat. There's like this slight hill there, a little bit of a dip in the grass, but once again, every now and then in quick battle, you just get these maps kind of near the coastline back there. But anyways, my army setup here, I have got 2 mercenary Balearic slingers and a Libyan peltist. And I'm going to comment on the skirmishing force again here in a second, but I've got 2 African pikemen. I have got 4 Libyan infantry and a mercenary Gallic warrior there. And these guys are not quite as good of a unit as the Libyan infantry, but they are slightly less armored, a little bit faster, good for moving around the flank. Then I've got this African war elephant, a noble cavalry as my general, 3 Carthaginian cavalry over there, a mercenary Iberian cavalry. These guys are light cav, a lot faster. You can see as they're running here, a lot less armored than some of the other units. And then 3 late Libyan hoplites. So real quickly, before this gets too far ahead, one thing, the purpose of this army here is basically to move on my opponent faster than he can deal with. Basically, that's why my skirmishing force is so light, and honestly, in later battles using this army, I have changed the skirmishing force from even having slingers to just the 3 Libyan peltists. These guys can get in close. Since I'm rushing in so close anyways, there's no need for this long-range skirmishing. I just need to deal with their heavily armored unit with these Libyan peltists. And quick comment on the battle over here. You can see he'd been skirmishing with me with these Galatian raiders for a while. I should have kept running this way here, but I ran a unit out around to cut them off, and I am going to do some damage here in this fight. But the point here is to rush in with you know, just a little bit of skirmishing fire to help. I'm going to use my African pikemen. In this battle here, they're not going to get a single kill, and it's not because they're going to be dying. What these guys are going to do is they're going to end up moving out of the way onto the flank and just blocking any enemy forces from taking my flank. Because the purpose here, you can see I'm moving my cavalry a lot, and over there I've got my elephants and stuff. But it's very obvious right now that I'm using cavalry to make it look like I've got a strong presence on this flank over here. What's going to happen is I'm going to try to break in one flank of my opponent. Once you get around one of their flanks, they have to turn to fight you, and that is when these elephants can charge into their unorganized lines and do some damage. And I don't know why my elephants are already bloody. They might have run over some of my own guys. That does that sometimes. I don't actually know if it does damage to your own troops. I don't think so, but I could be wrong on that. But real quickly here, my opponent's army, very interesting army choice. I'm going to show you guys some more battles later with this build, because this army here is a perfect army to use this build against just by chance. He's got 4 Galatian noblemen up front, and these, look at them there. I mean, they're a very nice spear unit, but they're really expensive and not, I don't think, worth bringing as your main core there. But he's got a Galatian legionary. These guys are deadly. Very, very nice unit for the cost. and then 2 naked swords. These guys are very fast. This is a unit, well, any of these sword units here are the type I want to get my elephants into. Another Galatian legionary. His skirmishing is also very light, which actually helped me. He's got 2 Celtic slingers there and 2 more in the back. And right now, my opponent can already see that I've got way more maneuverability than him. So he is trying to just play defensive, and that is a good thing for him to do here. This army is very mobile with the cavalry. It has, I believe there's 5 cavalry total. One time I changed around the cost of some of the units by bringing 1 more Gallic warrior to take away some costs there so that I could get another Carthaginian cav instead of the light cav. Even more damage there. But I actually really like the light cavalry. But with this cavalry, if I just keep it moving on both flanks, it'll hopefully give me time to get my infantry around their flank in such a way that, you know, hopefully they won't be able to effectively manage everything. And of course you might come across a player who can, but it is very tough to keep track of everything going on when you're defending against an army of this style. And the elephants are a big part of this army, throwing them in at the right point. But you can see at the beginning I had these 3 late Libyan hoplites moving up with my cavalry, and here my light cav is going to quickly get into these Celtic slingers, and my late Libyan hoplites are charging forward there. These guys are throwaway units. They're just there to keep my opponent's forces in place. And I'm going to pause it real quick just to explain one more thing before this engagement goes, because you can see there's 2 minutes left in this replay. This goes fast. So these 3 late Libyan hoplites are originally deployed in front of my cavalry, and it is used to just deter a cavalry attack. Now these guys don't take down cavalry super quickly right now, but hopefully that'll change in another patch, because they do have that massive bonus versus large of 25 there. But either way, spears in a cavalry fight is not a good thing for your cavalry. So since these Carthaginian cav, they're a solid unit, but they are not good against other shock cavalry, and they are not a shock cavalry unit themselves. If you're fighting someone like Parthia, for example, which honestly I would not use this army against them, but anyone with some good shock cavalry, you want to avoid getting into a fight with them with Carthaginian cavalry. And these late Libyan hoplites are just there to just kind of make it appear a little bit stronger than it is, and then I can use them for throwaway stuff like that. And a battle you'll see later, they do very much come in handy in the cavalry fight. But right here you can see I'm sending 2 units in, and these Galatian noblemen very good at stopping a charge. You can see my men just cutting through them there. Meanwhile, my guys are running back around the flank here, and that's what I needed. And these pikes, this is what they're here for. Set up this way, if my opponent tries to flank, he's got to go all the way around. It'll take him some time. I can turn these pikes, and if he tries to bust through them, he's going to have some trouble with that. Pikes are very dangerous. But over here you can see my cavalry is running around. Back here I've got my cavalry moving in on these Galatian raiders, and more cavalry moving back this way. These guys are going to go off after them, sorry. And you can see my units now coming around in behind, and created a nice gap here for my elephants to just charge in. And they're going to come in here and just stomp on these naked swords. And my opponent right now is trying to move men out of the way. Oh, inside an elephant there. Yeah, but you can see the immediate death of that unit. They are now down to they cease to exist. 19 men after that charge. My elephants are rampaging. His flank is completely collapsed. You can see I'm still microing all my cav in the back, and that is what is allowing me to be so effective here. My men are just running around in here, and he's still trying to keep his cavalry and stuff away. It's really hard to block everything with this type of army. You can see some of my cav over here fighting these Galatian legionaries, and these Carthaginian cavalry do have a bonus versus infantry, so it's a good fight for them, chasing after those Galatian raiders. But at this point my opponent's armies just melted away. I tried to show you guys a little bit of all the battle, but it was very fast. Just from the right flank down, his army was crumbled, and these pikes completely stopped any attempt he could make to reinforce that way. He would have to pull men back around. So it just guards my flank while I break his. So we'll end that replay. You can see the stats there. Once again, my opponent's army was like the perfect thing for this army build of Carthage to fight against. So keep that in mind. It's not always quite this effective, but you can see I took minimal losses, killed almost 1,000 men, and the morale penalties there, you know, sometimes you might have had to kill a little bit more men than this to actually win the battle. The morale penalties stack up fast with these elephants and all the flanking if you do it correctly. Can see my Libyan infantry, you know, not super high kills on them, but look at their losses. 43 kills there, 54, 58, 77, barely any losses. You know, that's still very high green health bars there. My Libyan Peltists did well. These Balearic Slingers did well. They took out the Celtic Slingers. I still think in some situations it's better to use the Libyan Peltists as a whole. You know, any army can be tampered with. These elephants started out, no chevrons on them. They're now rank 3, 303 kills. You know, when you throw them in at the right point, this army's just about creating confusion. And it does that well, and once those elephants go in there, it's bad news. And those mercenary Iberian cavalry, very cheap unit, did a lot of damage. 77 kills, still a lot of health left. You know, it's not a great unit, but charge from behind or get them into skirmishers, they're going to do work. If you run them around a lot, you know, they're fast. It's something your opponent has to keep track of. And then the noble cavalry is a good unit. Very expensive, but it's a good general unit, and it adds to the cavalry force, which is necessary there. And you can see these 3 late Libyan hoplites, 4 kills on that one. They completely died, but that's all they're there for. They're just to occupy space. In some battles, they're extremely effective in cavalry fights, but it's not this one. My opponent didn't bring a lot of cav. You'll see one where they do have a big portion, or I'm not wording that right, a big impact on the cavalry fight. But in this case, they just held up my opponent's left flank so he couldn't reinforce while his right flank was being broken, or switch that his left flank while his yeah, I'm confusing myself. I broke in on the right flank from my point of view. All of that was from my point of view. But anyways, guys, aside from that little mess up of wording there, hope you didn't get confused there. That will be it for today. Go give this army build a try. Tamper with it. Tell me what you think might be better, worse. It's up to you guys. Let's have a little bit of discussion. Other good rushing army builds. What do you guys think? And once again here, I'm trying to avoid a pike build, because right now it's very obvious that some pike builds with the cheap infantry and a lot of peltists and stuff are very strong. But anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time with more. This is Robin Hood, signing off.